Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. Happy to be joined by actor Jason Tobias, star of the latest movie to drop. It is called F.E.A.R, F.E.A.R, and that actually has to do a lot with the theme and the subject of the movie. Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Michael, Hassan. Great to be here, guys. Thank you so much for having me.
And tell us about F.E.A.R and why I prefaced it with the periods after each letter.
So F.E.A.R is a feature. It's a survival thriller about a family that's stuck behind a wall, and it's during a pandemic where they're just in some extreme situations and circumstances. Lack of resources, terrible weather, and there's also these things called zombies that are attacking them. So take that into consideration while you got another rogue family that might be on the hunt for them, and you've got some great drama. F.E.A.R is an acronym. It's forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. It was a quote that I'd seen on the internet. I'd seen it on Reddit. I'd seen it in different places where I've gone. I mean, I think I've even seen it on like church billboards and other spots. But it always kind of resonated whenever I was working through the script and kind of like massaging the story of that the choices that we make are going to dictate a lot of the path that we take. I mean, you can, face that fear and run headlong into it, or you can back down from it and kind of let the consequences lay where they are.
That's very, very well said in terms of the framework for the movie. Now, you had mentioned the script, so you wrote it, you directed it, and you starred in it. So clearly, you had nothing to do with this film.
Well, let me back up. So, wrote it, co-directed with Jeff Reisner.
Okay.
Produced with Anna Bradley, and it was executive produced by Blair Pennington and Lucas Solomon. But yes, we all wore, a lot of hats. As an independent production company, you just have to do that because, manpower costs money. And in the independent realm, dollars got to stretch. So we're more than happy to wear all those hats. And I think everybody did a fantastic job because, they're great at what they do.
So take me through, what was the most challenging aspect for you individually wearing all these hats? What is it? What was it that you were most comfortable with?
Definitely acting. I mean, acting is just the root of what I've been doing in Los Angeles for the past decade. So that was not difficult. What was challenging was being able to kind of switch off that brain when I needed to get behind the monitor with Jeff and we needed to focus on composition, framing, how we were going to cut certain scenes together. And also being able to watch the performance from a place of this is what we're going for, and letting the actors just be who they are, because that's part of the process. If you hire great people, you don't need to micromanage. You just give them little tweaks here and there. Like, hey, loved what you did there. Let's try this right now and do that. So it was just kind of turning that part of your brain off, but then turning it back on again. That was challenging, but I loved it. It was still a lot of fun to be able to do that. It was a challenge that I wholeheartedly accepted.
You mentioned the group collaboration. Where did the impetus for the story come from originally? Because I know it's the story itself is you and your team. So it wasn't just really, maybe, like Hassan and I are both writers. So, I mean, that's what we do, right? We just sit around and we write and stories come. But where did the impetus for the story come from?
There was an initial idea about this couple that rents a cabin in the woods, and they let this drifter in. And this drifter ends up torturing them. That was the initial what the story was. And then it started to evolve a little bit further into, well, if there's only 3 people in this film, it better be some good conflict, better be some good scenes, because how can you make 90 minutes enjoyable when you've only got 3 people talking?
Sure.
So it started to evolve more into the family, and then the backstory of who they were, what was going on. Children were introduced. And then as that started to happen, there was another addition of bringing another family in to really kind of let the audience play with, well, who's right and who's wrong here? Because depending on the lens that you flip this, you have to look at it from the vantage point of, well, what they're saying makes sense and what they're saying makes sense. They're just going about it in a different way. That was my intention of creating that between both families going at one another, is that they're both going after the same goal. They're just using different means to essentially get there. With Jeff coming on and us co-directing, he wanted to build up more tension inside the home with Desiree and Joe. So obviously, if he's bringing something to the story, I want to give him that credit for sure. That's implementation into story that if he doesn't give that, we don't have it. So that's where he comes on with story by.
One of the aspects to this film that I really liked was that
I really liked it, Michael.
Yeah, no, one of the things I really liked was this is an act like a family situation. It seems as if obviously there's a zombie, backdrop to everything that's going on, and obviously the weather plays into it, right? So it has a little bit of disaster, a little bit of apocalyptic tones to it, but it's really about a family, and it's a family that loves each other. Like it really, it's amazing how many times now we see films where it's like this family can't stand each other. The brother and the sister are always at each other. The husband and wife, one of them cheated on the other, or something. And those are all valid story, ideas. I just feel like it's always done. And this one really just felt like this was a tight knit, loving family. Talk to me about like the impetus for doing, for doing something out of the ordinary by just making it an actual family that likes each other.
Right, doing something that, oh, you guys like each other? Yeah, I mean, the focus was initially making the Ethan and the Joe arc to show that, even when things are good, they can be challenging and tough. Even when they're bad, they can be good, but they can be also challenging and tough. Riding that line of, you don't always have to dislike the other person, but you can have your conflicts. But it was a focus to make sure that whatever we saw between these two, we knew that there was something still holding them together. That no matter what, at the hardest point of their journey, there was still something that they were still holding on to, whether it was their connection to one another, whether it was connection to family, their children. Something brought them all back together to make them this cohesive, group of four. So that was always part of the guiding theme that was going through, is not to separate them so much that like she can't stand him and he can't stand her, and
right.
He just off. That just wasn't even part of the equation.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, there was definitely look, like any married couple, like any family in general, there's going to be times when you're disagreeing, but overall the disagreements never felt like it overshadowed the overall family dynamic.
I think she sold the standoffishness very well, though. When you guys come back from in the beginning, and Ethan is wounded, and so she, as anybody in the midst of a zombie apocalypse knows, there's no light. You can't take wounds lightly. There's no just slightly wounded in a zombie apocalypse. So there were a couple of scenes where where it's very visible that she keeps taking steps away from him, which really sold that tension really well, even though they were still kind of simpatico on what the next step is. There's a little bit of conflict on whether they should wait or not, but basically all that stuff is it all read as genuine to me. It sold it very well.
Awesome. I'm glad. I mean, and Marcy Miller is just an amazing actress. She's so present. She's so professional, and she just goes for it every time. And working with her is an absolute pleasure. So whenever we would discuss scenes prior to, we wouldn't, burn them to death. We wouldn't be like, hey, what does this sentence mean to you? No, it was more about, what do you think here and there? All right, cool. What do you feel? All right, let's go have some fun. Let's go play, and when you have such a talented actor, and Marcy, she just brings so much to the table.
Yeah, I thought you guys, it's a really great segue too, because I thought the chemistry you guys had was very genuine. Like it definitely, again, the family dynamic was what stood out to me, and it seemed like you two had a great chemistry, and it sounds like, off camera, everything, it flowed naturally from on to off camera.
Absolutely. I've known Marcy since 2015. Her and I did a movie called Most Likely to Die. It was from Mar Vista. And as soon as I met her, I mean, she's just this fun-loving, just like kick-ass actor. I mean, she every time she was on camera, I caught myself just being like, wow, she's totally tuned in right now. She's doing great work, and I wanted to work with her again. So we wrote this small little short for Star Wars for the opening premiere of Rogue One in Hollywood, and I just pitched her. I was like, hey, here's like 5-6 pages. I'd love for you to play this character. And she was like, yeah, I'd love to come out and play Star Wars for the day. I was like, oh, you want to play Star Wars for the day? But, again, that's just her lightheartedness of approaching things with such a cool air of professionalism. Like she killed it. And then when I was writing F.E.A.R, I had her in mind to play Joe. She has this great ability to hold strength and vulnerability back in moments and let them bubble over so well. And they're so subtle, and they're so they're so impactful. And when I sent her the script, I was like, hey, I wrote this. I'd love for you to check out the Joe character. Let me know what you think. And she got back to me. I think it was like a day or two. She sweated me out a little bit. Yeah, she said, hey, I love this character. If you're open to it, I'd love to play it. And I was like, well, actually, I am open to you playing this character. Whole point of me sending you the script.
Funny you should mention that.
We will get into Star Wars in a little bit because you got a great podcast with friend of the show Victoria Bennett that dives into it. But your acting resume is very impressive. A lot of like very well known TV shows, especially Rush Hour, Justified, Bloodlines. You're recurring on Days of Our Lives. What is the standout role for you? That if somebody comes up to you at a party and says, "Do I know you from somewhere? Which one are you giving to them?" Which one of these shows is like the one you not only are you giving to them, but you want to show be like, yeah, I was on this one. Go check out this.
Yeah, I would say the one that I get recognized for the most is a movie that I did called Open Marriage on Lifetime. I think it's because it aired on this Lifetime network that is constantly running it in these kind of like marathon sessions.
Wow. Okay.
I've been at, Pinkberry. I've been at the post office, and I've had people do the whole, I've seen you with your shirt off and like you're in your underwear. And I'm like, that was in this movie. But if I'm talking about television, Dead to Me is one that I've gotten recently because the show is very popular on Netflix right now. Liz Feldman wrote and runs that with Linda Cardellini, Christina Applegate, and James Marsden, but had a small bit in episode 7 on that. And some folks were like, oh man, I love that show. It's so fun and quirky and strange. So that's the one that is, as of late, being the
And which one's your personal favorite, though, of any role you've had, movie or TV?
Personal favorite? I mean, I love playing Ethan in F.E.A.R. because I don't get the opportunity to play characters like that. That's the reason that I wrote him the way that I did, with these varying levels of vulnerability and strength and looking for redemption. I barely get the opportunity to read for parts like that. I usually read for, when I'm not, big beard and whatnot, I'm usually like a cop. I'm usually like a cowboy, a Viking, something rugged, something more, they call it like man's man, or, I'll go leading man roles and things, but I don't get a lot of layered roles with like these layers of emotion. So I really love playing Ethan.
There was there was definitely no running around in underwear in F.E.A.R.
No.
That
was a little too cold.
No opportunities for that. All right,
there's a lot of man on man violence though. I mean, charging a little army of zombies is. I would not call that weak.
No.
No.
So
next time, shoot it in your underwear, and then you're golden. You merge all worlds together, and they'll be like, that was the open marriage guy killing zombies.
Yeah, there he is.
We mentioned Star Wars before. We mentioned a Star Wars podcast. Tell the audience about this podcast. You co-host with Victoria Bennett, very friend of the show. She plays Bevan in Geek Play Love, and just tell us a bit about that podcast. And are you a Star Wars nerd or a Star Wars geek?
Oof, that's a good question. When we broke down the definitions earlier, I would say I'm probably a Star Wars nerd. The intricacies of everything beyond like what has now been deemed canon versus expanded universe. But I mean, I think I can hold my own in certain things. Podcast on the electric through Dean Devlin's company. It's executive produced by Dean Devlin and Mark Altman. And we bring on folks to just talk about Star Wars. We try to lean towards people that work in the entertainment industry because I don't know if there's anybody who works in entertainment that doesn't like Star Wars or has not seen Star Wars. It could maybe be a catalyst for the reason that they wanted to work in entertainment or get into whatever field it was respectively. But Victoria is a fantastic co-host because she brings so much levity to it. She challenges me, I challenge her. We her back and forth, and I couldn't ask for a better co-host. And we're always down to, chop it up. You guys should come on the podcast.
Done. Well, I'll tell you right now, as a Star Wars geek, I will sit there and smile and nod. You need to do a new segment though. Stump Hassan, because Hassan is a Star Wars nerd. He'll shake his head. No, he'll shake his head, but he literally. I will bet lots of money that stumping him would be very, very difficult.
We are not here to talk about me. don't put me in the middle of this.
Have some nerd on nerd violence. That's good stuff. A nerd off. You need a nerd off. You need a Star Wars nerd off.
We'll do it, man.
Okay, here's one simple question.
Okay.
The expanded universe.
Okay.
Did they do right by the expanded universe to decanonize it, or should they have gone with a substantial amount of what was in the expanded universe for the sequels? Excuse me. Just in your opinion.
Okay. Speaking honestly, I think what they built in the expanded universe was fantastic. I think it gave the fans an opportunity to live with these characters beyond the screen and go deeper and further to what was going to happen beyond this, this destroying of the second moon space station of the Death Star.
Right.
I think that it was terribly unfortunate that we did not get a scene with Han, Luke, and Leia, at least in 3 sequel trilogy films, at least one in episode 7, the opening, have it be this climactic, huge battle opening scene, and just seeing Luke, Leia, and Han together. Man, I just think that it was a terribly missed opportunity. And what I'm liking now about what's happening in The Mandalorian and a lot of these like episodic shows, we're starting to get some of that expanded universe stuff coming back in, the Dark Troopers, the Darksaber coming back from Rebels and Clone Wars. And you're giving some of the fans that were fans of the original trilogy and just are having a hard time accepting parts of the sequel trilogy, you're giving them the ability to go, hey, they're hearkening back to, this, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, they're hearkening back to this. I mean, now we're talking about Thrawn, and we're talking about Ezra, and we're talking about people we're such huge fans of. I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but we missed a big opportunity to just take those stories and build further out from them. I think they were great foundation stories.
There is no right or wrong answer to the question, but that was the right answer.
This is why I would sit back and just watch you guys talk about it. I'd be like, Yoda's a nice.
Yeah, there's so much. There's so much. Yeah,
Yoda's a good Muppet. I like him.
He was amazing. I love the relationship between Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker. I love that they had, Ben Skywalker. I love that we had, Jason, Jaina, and Anakin. I mean, we have a lot of that. And yes, we have versions of that in the sequel trilogy. Like we have kind of characters doing this mashup, if you will, and moments that are like, this is kind of like that. Hey, the keys were passed off to Disney when on that contract. So
we like to play a bit. We have a segment called "If You Were the Showrunner." So that's a great question. If you were the showrunner, that's it, right? I mean, that's unfortunately we will never be in a position again to have breathed new life into these characters. Luckily, we got things like The Mandalorian that kind of come our way.
Well, I think if you have all your main actors, you're from the original trilogy, and they're all 32 years older, so there's a limited amount of what they are going to do or what they're willing to do on camera. Then to decanonize all the material that could have potentially come in the middle was a mistake, because now that's just 32 years we missed that they're not going to reflect on, and then they killed them all off. So it's all over. I mean, to me, it was a huge mistake. But who am I?
I think you are the voice of the most people who grew up being Star Wars fans. I mean,
there are rumblings. There are people.
Are there sequel defenders? Is that what it? Do we have? Are they the new prequel defenders?
As we've learned from the prequels, any kid who grew up with the sequels will consider them their Star Wars. So I mean that we'll deal with that. That happens, and that's fair, But no.
It's hard, man. It's hard to see. I mean, I'm also a huge fan of the Dark Horse comic series. Knights of the Old Republic. I love that.
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. And when I heard D.B. Weiss and Benioff?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard they were attached to a Star Wars project, I was hoping that's what they were going to do. Was going to do a trilogy of those films. Obviously, they're no longer attached.
No, they got chased off.
They're like, Netflix, you're going to give us a boatload of money to not deal with this fandom?
Yeah. Why don't we do that?
Sign us up. Real quick, last question I have for you. I got it. It's not even a question; it's a statement. I love the name of your production company. It's Action Figure Entertainment. What is the mission statement for Action Figure, and where'd you come up with the name?
The name was just, I pitched it to Lucas Solomon. I just said, hey, I think this is a cool name. I'm a huge action figure junkie. He likes toys. He's a big Mobile Gundam fan. He likes Transformers. I love Star Wars, Black Series figures. I've had He-Man, G.I. Joe, the whole nine. So we were like, yeah, Action Figure Entertainment. It's got a nice ring to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For the mission statement of the company, it's to conceptualize, produce, and deliver high concept film and television. So we love action adventure, sci-fi. We love heady stuff like, Blade Runner 2049. Sorry, guys. Let me try to dismiss this. So I'm not sorry about that.
That's okay.
So yeah, we're big fans of sci-fi and action adventure. It's just, with that genre comes a cost. You have to be very smart about how you're shooting it unless you've got big cash behind you. But, we want to tell stories that harken back to the stuff that really inspired us, whether it's like The Goonies, The Explorers, Star Wars, Flight of the Navigator, Last Starfighter. Those are just some to name a few that I can think off the top of my head that when I saw these films on like VHS, I was immediately just taken back. Jesus, sorry. Shut that down. So yeah.
I'll do some modest editing. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Meaning I will run this exactly the way it happened.
It'll be perfect. You'll cut it up.
I just watched Raiders of the Lost Ark this week in the movie theaters for the 40th anniversary, and it just I was dumbfounded about just how they're not making films like that anymore. You know?
Hassan, I'm right with you, man. These are adventure movies that you would watch, and you would go on these quests, and they were fun. I tried to they tried to do Sahara.
It's funny you mentioned that word, though, actually. Adventure films.
Adventure, yeah.
See, no one actually phrases that. They call them action films. And
movies.
I think somewhere along the lines, it got, the idea of a quest, the idea of an adventure got overtaken by how much action can we put into this? Which, don't get me wrong, is cool. And it's a cool aspect to a film. But calling a film an adventure film is actually way more accurate.
Yeah. They tried it with Sahara with Matthew McConaughey, and I love personally National Treasure with Nicolas Cage. It felt like I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome. It actually made me reinterested in American history. I was like, oh, can I go and find a map or something?
Yeah.
And then we've had other stuff like Journey to the Center of the Earth, and we've had other films that have tried it. It just never hit the same. It's I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just a combination of maybe the filmmakers at the time with, fantastic scores, great storytelling, cool scripts, fun locations, charismatic leading actors that are attached. I don't know.
Nostalgia and it's a little bit of us also, who we were when we first saw those films as young people, But for the most part, like as I'm watching it as an adult, I was still, I still had no problem going away, and traveling to wherever the movie was trying to take me. And there are still fantastic movies now. There's still great movies now, but they just, for some reason, they don't have that kind of heaviness, of largeness, that
Grandiose.
One movie had. Yeah, they're not as grandiose for some reason.
Jungle Book. Have you guys seen the trailer for Jungle Book yet with Emily Blunt?
Not yet.
I just saw it because, some of the theaters were open in New York, and we caught some films out there, and I saw it. Again, scope, grandiose, big. You're talking set pieces that if they tried to shoot a lot of this practically, which maybe not some of it practically, but more than likely it's on a stage somewhere with VFX set extension.
Right.
It just doesn't really feel the same. It feels like you're almost playing a cutscene in Uncharted, or, like a video game cutscene. You're just hitting X at the right time, or you're hitting... but I understand the budgetary limitations, even from a Disney standpoint.
Sure.
Something that big and cinematic on location. So, but it just, I don't know. I'm not judging it to say I would never see it. It just didn't feel like watching a trailer for Raiders. It was different.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, maybe, Jason, maybe one day you will star. You will be that charismatic lead actor in the next great adventure film.
Yes. Okay? I love it. I've got an idea for a film like that too. I do have an idea.
All right. See, I love it. I love it. All right. Jason, thank you so much for being here. Jason Tobias, new movies F.E.A.R. Tell everyone where they can watch it and where they can consume it.
Yes, June 15th, we will be launching stateside here in North America. You can catch it on Amazon now. You can pre-order it. Your cable or your streaming provider, it will be under the day and date releases, so it will be coming up as a new release. You can rent it there and check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. And we're going to accept the invitation for that podcast. I'm telling you right now. This guy will kill it. We'll kill it. I will sit back with my popcorn.
We will have a mutually beneficial discussion about the greatest movie franchise of all time. That's how it will work.
There you go. See, very diplomatic.
Did we just become best friends?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yes. Yes, we did.
Jason Tobias. When we come back, more Rogue Wave podcast.